I thought I was protecting my family by keeping quiet, but when my neighbor started acting strange around my kids, ignoring my calls, and other parents began whispering behind my back, I knew something was terribly wrong. What I found out next destroyed everything I thought I knew about the people I trusted most. And the worst part? They had been planning this for months while smiling to my face every single day. You know that feeling when you sense something is off, but you can't quite put your finger on it? That's exactly where my story begins. 6 months ago, I was living what I thought was a perfectly normal suburban life with my 2 kids, ages 8 and 10. We had the house with a white picket fence, the golden retriever, and neighbors who waved every morning. I was that mom who organized bake sales and carpooled to soccer practice without a second thought. But then things started changing in ways so subtle that I almost missed them completely. It began with Sarah, my next-door neighbor of 5 years. We used to chat over the fence every morning while she watered her roses and I let my dog out. Our kids played together constantly. Her daughter Emma was practically like a third child to me. But suddenly, Sarah started avoiding eye contact. When I'd wave, she'd pretend to be busy with her phone. When Emma asked to play with my kids, Sarah would make up excuses about homework or chores. I brushed it off at first. Maybe Sarah was going through something personal. Maybe she was stressed about her job. People have busy seasons, right? But then I noticed it wasn't just Sarah. At the grocery store, Linda from down the street saw me coming and literally turned her cart around to avoid my aisle. At my son's baseball game, 3 moms who usually sat next to me suddenly had no empty seats available. The coffee shop owner, who knew my order by heart, started acting like we'd never met. The breaking point came during my daughter's birthday party. I had invited 12 kids from her class, the same kids who came to every party, whose parents I texted regularly about playdates and school events. But this time, something felt different from the moment the first parent dropped their child off. Instead of the usual small talk about weekend plans or school fundraisers, parents were giving me these tight, forced smiles. They'd hand over their kids and leave immediately instead of lingering to chat like they normally did. Even worse, I noticed some parents were walking their kids to the door instead of just dropping them off at the curb like usual. During the party, I overheard 2 kids talking in the backyard. One said her mom told her to stay close to the other kids and not wander off alone. Another mentioned that his dad said to call immediately when the party was over for pickup. These weren't safety instructions you give for a normal neighborhood birthday party. These were the kind of warnings you give when you think there's danger. That night, after all the kids went home and I was cleaning up paper plates and deflated balloons, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something crucial. My husband noticed my mood and asked what was wrong. I told him about the strange behavior, the avoided conversations, the way parents seemed almost scared to leave their kids with us. He suggested I was reading too much into things. People get busy, kids grow apart, adults have their own drama. But I knew this was different. This wasn't natural social drift. This was deliberate avoidance with an undercurrent of fear. So I decided to do something I'd never done before. I started paying attention, really paying attention. The next week at school pickup, I positioned myself where I could observe the other parents without being obvious. What I saw made my blood run cold. There was definitely a group dynamic happening that excluded my family completely. Parents who used to include me in their conversations were now forming tight clusters that dispersed when I approached. But more disturbing was what I noticed about their body language. They weren't just ignoring me. They were watching me carefully, like they were studying my behavior for signs of something. But signs of what? I tried direct confrontation first. I approached Michelle, who had been my closest mom friend for 3 years. Our families had vacationed together. Our kids were in the same scout troop. If anyone would be honest with me, it would be Michelle. But when I asked her straight out if something was wrong, if I had done something to upset people, she gave me the most unconvincing performance I'd ever seen. Too much eye contact, over-animated gestures, that voice people use when they're lying to children. She insisted everything was fine, that people were just busy with the end of the school year. I knew she was lying, but I had no idea why. That's when I made a decision that changed everything. I decided to become a detective in my own neighborhood. I started documenting things, taking notes about conversations that stopped when I approached, recording which parents suddenly had emergency phone calls when I tried to join their groups. I even started taking different routes through the neighborhood to see if I could overhear conversations about my family. And that's exactly how I stumbled onto the truth. 3 weeks into my investigation, I was walking my dog on the path behind our local park when I heard familiar voices coming from the playground. It was Michelle, Sarah, and 3 other moms from our street. They were sitting at the picnic table closest to the woods, far from where other families usually gathered. I should have kept walking. I should have minded my own business, but something about their tone made me stop. They sounded serious, concerned, and I distinctly heard my name. I moved closer, staying behind the tree line where they couldn't see me, and listened to a conversation that completely shattered my understanding of my own life. Michelle was reading from her phone, something about background checks and public records. Sarah was talking about property values and how certain situations can affect entire neighborhoods. Another mom mentioned consulting with her lawyer about community safety measures. But it was what I heard next that made my knees literally buckle. They weren't talking about me at all. They were talking about my husband. According to their conversation, someone had run a background check on every adult in our neighborhood. This wasn't random paranoia. This was organized investigation. And apparently, they had found something in my husband's past that concerned them enough to coordinate a community response. I stood behind those trees for 20 minutes, listening to them debate whether they should confront me directly or just continue their policy of protective distance. They discussed whether to involve the school administration, whether to contact other parents who hadn't been part of their initial group. The most chilling part was how methodical they were being. This wasn't gossip or rumors. They had documentation. They had consulted professionals. They had made group decisions about how to handle what they considered a threat to their children's safety. And I had no idea what they were talking about. I walked home in a daze, my mind racing through every possibility. My husband had no criminal record. He'd never been in trouble with the law. He worked in accounting, for crying out loud. He coached Little League and volunteered at the food bank. What could they possibly have found? That evening, I did something I'd never done in 15 years of marriage. I went through my husband's personal documents while he was at his weekly poker game. I found absolutely nothing concerning. Old tax returns, insurance policies, college transcripts, employment records, everything was exactly what you'd expect from a suburban dad with a boring job and a predictable life. But then I found something that didn't make sense. In a folder I'd never seen before, buried under years of warranty information and appliance manuals, there was a thin, manila envelope with my husband's name written in handwriting I didn't recognize. Inside were legal documents from 15 years ago, before we were married, before I knew him. The papers detailed a civil lawsuit. My husband had been sued by the parents of a teenage student when he was working as a substitute teacher fresh out of college. The allegations were serious, inappropriate conduct with a minor. The case had been settled out of court with a confidentiality agreement. I sat on our bedroom floor at midnight holding papers that described a version of my husband that I had never known existed. The documents were complex, full of legal language I barely understood, but the basic facts were clear enough. A student had accused him of behavior that crossed professional boundaries. Her parents had demanded his resignation and financial compensation. My husband agreed to both rather than fight the allegations in court. The settlement included terms that prevented either party from discussing the case publicly. My husband was required to disclose this information to any future employers in educational settings, but there was no requirement to tell anyone else, including his wife. I stayed awake all night reading those papers over and over, trying to reconcile the man I married with the allegations described in legal terminology. Had he been guilty of what they accused him of? Or had he simply chosen the path that would end the situation quickly, even if it meant admitting to something he didn't do? When my husband came home from his poker game, I was sitting at the kitchen table with the documents spread in front of me. The look on his face when he saw those papers told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a case of mistaken identity. This was a secret he had kept from me for our entire relationship. He sat down from me and, for the first time in our marriage, told me the complete truth about his past. The story he told me was complicated. He was 22, working as a substitute teacher while trying to decide if education was the right career path. One of his students, a teenage girl, had developed what he described as an unhealthy attachment to him. She would stay after class to talk about personal problems. She would text him questions about assignments at inappropriate hours. She found excuses to be alone with him. He insisted he had handled the situation properly by maintaining professional boundaries and documenting her behavior,